This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Welcome to the From Pain to Purpose radio show. I'm your host, Eva Fulton. In this show, we explore the incredible journeys of resilience, healing, and transformation. In each episode, we will sit down with individuals who have faced unimaginable struggles and turned their pain into power, heartbreak into hope, and their challenges into meaningful change and finding new purpose in life. Through candid conversations and inspiring stories, we will uncover how pain, whether emotional, physical, mental, or spiritual, can be the catalyst for profound growth and a deeper sense of purpose. So if you are looking for motivation, insight, and real stories of triumph over adversity, you're in the right place. Let's get started on this journey from pain to purpose. Let's give veterans a voice through Military Broadcast Talk. Hey, everybody. Welcome. This is the From Pain to Purpose radio show. I am, if I can click on the right thing, I am your host, Eva Fulton, the From Pain to Purpose radio show. And I have had really a pretty, I want to say in some ways intense, exhausting, exhilarating week of all different sorts. Man, lots happening out there in veteran world of things. Man, it's kind of overloaded sometimes to the brain, and thinking, the veteran space is really hot right now. And I mean hot in a really good way. We are really finding our voices, and I'm super excited about the guests that I have on my show tonight. And at the end, I'll cover the guests that are coming up in future episodes. Lots of great content coming your way. I've been working on my own dissertation, chapter 2, and, trying to tidy that up and get it submitted, the literature review. Man, even as I was looking on the internet today, more literature being published, and it's exciting times to think that veterans are producing. Veterans are leading in the space, but there's still so much more work to do. And I think that's really going to help us lead into the conversation with my dear friend, Dr. Katie Baillo. Woo! And I'm saying it that way on purpose because, man, lots of clapping for this lovely lady. So who is Dr. Katie Baillo? Fresh off the hot presses with her dissertation. She served 20 years in the Army. She currently works for the Texas Veterans Commission for the last 10 years. Current Department of Texas VOD PP Teacher of the Year Chair with the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And she has been the first post commander and the first female district commander, and a current commander of post 2205 in Denton, Texas. So without further ado.
The interview of the week
is brought to you by Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
Dr. Katie.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. Good. You know, I was so excited knowing you were coming on. I was like, oh, I've got pictures with her. Let me pull up some of these old pics that we've done events together in North Texas.
I know it's been many of years since we've known each other and been in the same space working together.
Yeah. So fun, so fun. Was it we were talking before a show and was like, when would they have that particular picture taken? Because she had her Army picture on. I was like, I think that was at an Army Navy game up in Frisco that Sheena had put together. And that was a good time because it was a kind of a good meeting place for you to go south, me to go east, northeast,
Right.
a little stretch. So,
And
people.
And like I said, look, an Army Navy game. If anybody knows me, I will always represent Army. And anytime we're in mixed veteran populations and I'm not wearing a VFW shirt, don't be surprised I have an Army shirt on. So
Yeah. I know. Go Army. Even when I was talking to Robert Hess about participating in the Rally for Vets event, the race in October, he's like, so which team are you going to be in? I was like, was that a question? Team Army, of course. So I want to say again, because I'm like following your heels, there's a whole group of us that have been a group of us women who have been working in this doctoral academic space of things. So we have to, maybe I should put my glasses back on and sound a little bit more, academic. But there is a growing group of us that are academics related.
and I think what's really cool, and so with the power of social media, you don't always know who's paying attention, good, bad, or ugly. But since then, I've had people reach out. It's like, I saw you do it, so I'm going to do it. And even recently, we were at a training with my day job, Texas Veterans Commission, and two people who I totally did not know, they just heard I got my PhD. So they came up to me and they were like, we want help. We want insider help. I'm like, okay. It was a good unexpected feeling. So it's always good. And I'm going to be first and paraphrase that if Reese hears this, Reese is my battle buddy through this. Reese was not a veteran, but she was with me. We were together she finished before me and we still talk to this day and age. So so in my dedication, Reese is mentioned and I call her my battle buddy because I was like, you went through the process with me. So it's like, no, it's a process. So
yeah, it is a process. It's a different kind of journey. I think I had somebody say that it does change you as you go through the process. So what is your insight? How do you think that it has changed you
well,
in the way you're thinking or the way you look at things?
it's definitely going to change the way you think. I mean, I love to do research beforehand. That's just, something. But when you have to do current research or find research that matters and get the APA spelling done or get this and that. So they told us, I went to Walden University. So they tell you it's a marathon and not a sprint, and
Yeah.
that you're going to be married to this topic. So choose wisely. So what I thought I was going to do first was not what I ended with, and it turned out to be better, but it changes you because at some point, to be real, if you don't doubt yourself through the process, I don't know if I know you. Because there was, I mean, I'm just being, because there was many times I was like, there would be Reese or other people like, I don't want to do this. I don't, why do I need to do this and stuff
Right.
like that? And, you get to that. And then to be fair, when I was in coursework, I am not a quantitative person. So
Oh,
that, and so I really value qualitative, which is the interviews and everything I did. So you learn a whole lot more. I probably know how to read stats better than I ever did, and that was not something I thought I was going to do. But
Yeah.
and to understand research and the power of research and using it to help others.
That's critical. I think I know so far I've cried more because of this than probably even some of the other things that have happened in my life. Just be, just because I think in some ways it's kind of something you hit upon. Really, do I need this? Is this going to change my life in particular? And maybe not, but maybe yes. And maybe if it's not the way it changes you and me specifically, I think it is gonna shape the future of other women veterans who are coming in behind us.
And it's cool, like we were talking like a couple of weeks ago, it was like how you get to cite my dissertation. So
Yeah,
I know it's like
it's already in the literature review, by the
so,
way.
that was cool. And you get to a point, and chapter 2 specifically, chapter 2 makes you question everything, because for us, for what having to go back to the 1970s first to figure out the theory that will work for you. So
Yeah,
mine was social identity theory. And then when you get back to who's your population, and one of the questions, since I did it on women veterans, was like, how are you going to mitigate bias? And
yeah.
to really, really look at it from a researcher lens and not through a veteran's lens. So that's a lot harder than what people think, because not everybody who I interviewed knew initially I was a veteran. And so you have to only listen to what they're saying and not, oh yeah, like I get it and stuff. So, but you have to listen to their words and not input what could have happened into it. So that's actually a lot harder than what people think.
So in some ways, the way you're saying it sounds like you can't lead their response, like a policeman interviewing a subject. They can't lead them.
Well, and that's why they tell us that I have an interview guide. So
Yeah,
they say stick to the guide. But there are certain things, like if somebody was to say, because it didn't come up, if somebody was to say, yeah, we're wearing skirts in the military, I can't be like, yes, I know that. I remember what
right,
it felt to wear a skirt. So you have to literally be there, and it's only what did they say and not what you heard. So
right.
so it's a little harder than what people think, but especially if you are researching something that you are familiar with. I mean, as a 20-year Army veteran, I'm pretty much know how to do or heard a lot of stuff, but to really be step away from that is a lot harder.
So what motivated you to actually work on your PhD to begin with?
Hmm. So
It's a harder question than you think, right?
it's harder because I want to be fair when I say my master's was easy. So I was just like, okay, master's easy. And then people were like, you should go for your PhD. And I was like, I don't like math. Don't look, you want me to write stuff? We're cool like that. You want me to do math? No. I know some strengths and weaknesses, of mine.
Right.
Uh, and
It's the Katie SWOT analysis. Got
yeah,
that.
yes. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Um, And I had to look around, and I was like, well, and I went to Walden for military families and culture and human service. So I was like, okay, that's my wheelhouse. And then a lot of people were like, well, you should. You should. And I'm like, okay. And so I was just like, well, let's see what happens. And, 4 years later, it's done. But it's as easy as hard as you make it. I chose to have a life. I don't know what I mean. Um, I was still heavily involved. Well, still, I am heavily involved with the VFW, and there was a lot of times commitments that, all right, go to the meeting. Okay, where are you going? I'm going back to the room because I have to do homework. And
Yeah.
so, and you have to know, your family has to know what you're about to get into. Because I
Right.
just signed up for another class with SMU, and my daughter was like, why, mom? Why didn't you just finish a degree? And I was like, well, that's the next evolution, not a degree. You're not going to school again. It's a class. So it's a certification, but I mean, I don't know if I've thought because maybe the master's is easy, and I was just like, but when I was in coursework, and I will tell you, when I got to quantitative, I thought I was just going to quit. I was like, I tell people, and I will still tell people, I passed because I watched YouTube videos. Me and SPS at that's me being real part of that journey, and was just like,
Yeah.
I don't get it and stuff, but I can watch a YouTube video and figure it out and stuff. So when it came time to designing, because your research question designs how you're going to do it, and I was like, I'm going to be
Right.
qualitative. I was not going to be quantitative. But
Yeah.
they will tell you for quantitative, which is your surveys and stuff like that, they up front can be finished faster because they just push that, where quality, so you have to know your population also.
Right.
It's a little bit more, words matter when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
When you go through IRB, it's just like, okay, you said this, but you didn't spell it that way on the flyer. Every single thing has to match. So
Yep. It's the matchy game. I even use that at work. It's all gotta match. Oh, Josh posted. He says, "Hey, the doctor is in."
hi Josh, and no, I don't have band-aids. I was like, people like Josh, I was like, I'm gonna just have to at least keep band-aids on, because Josh is gonna be the one, and not just other people too. So I'm very thankful for the support that
Oh, I
I've been
bet.
given.
The veteran, I'm sure that you've got your little cheerleader group. I think I have a small cheerleader group that has been, they help keep us marching on in this journey, because it is, it does take a lot. It takes a lot out of your personal life. But I think for the biggest part, the way I look at this academic journey is that this is something that's bigger than us. We're just a vessel to get through this, to build upon that knowledge of, that
Yeah,
knowledge.
that's when you write, and they tell you when you write a dissertation, first of all, you're not solving the world
Yeah.
stuff. You're adding to the body of literature about the subject. So my PhD got to add about the body of literature on women veterans, or online forums, or social identity. So my chair, or my methodologist, has even suggested that we can take my topic and go somewhere else. So that will be a goal of mine, to get published in different journals. So
Yeah. I could certainly see it. What do you think so far has been your biggest challenge in your academic journey?
chapter 2 first. I mean, it's rough because it's an exhaustive literature. So and minus theory, everything has to be within 5 years.
You're right.
So human services, when you're talking about women veterans, some of them it's in social work, some of it's in psychology, and to bring them together, because my topic was neither of those, and then to make sure that your interview questions, your guide that you create, is actually answering your research question,
Hmm.
because you can't deviate. So, and I would have thought initially, going in, that finding the ones that meet that criteria would have been easier. It was a little bit of a challenge until I got to the right person, and then they shared it, because a lot of people were like, hey, I would have done your study, but I've been out 8 years. So it is, define your population, and you have to defend every single decision. Why 5 years? Why this? Why that? Why that? Because you will defend and stuff. So
Right.
it was good. I had a great chair. She was a veteran, but my methodologist definitely helped me out, Dr. Shermack. It was good because she wasn't a veteran. So again, where my chair could see things through a veteran lens and stuff, she did not. So sometimes I had to, like, early on was like, well, why would they go to the VA? And so you have to remember, this is academia. You have to defend and describe everything, even though as you're a veteran. It's like, why would you not go to the VA? Okay, we're not on that research topic.
Right.
That topic can go a whole lot of different way. But you when you get out of chapter 2, and for us, that every chair is a little different. We wrote chapter 2, then your chapter 3 is like, okay, what now? And stuff like that. And then IRB went quick for me, and that was amazing. And then it was just like, okay, but when you're trying to figure out how are you going to code your data, it's like there's so many different ways. And I went Excel, so I didn't use a computer program at all, so that was good. And the best thing ever was like Reese, and there was another person that, okay, I don't know what they're saying, I don't get it, I'm frustrated, what do they mean? And to be fair, you got to be able to have, hopefully you have a chair that you can explain some of that, because I had a lot of life stuff happen, and they were there with me through the step of the way. So
Yeah, I have a really good chair so far. He's actually my third chair, but he's an Air Force veteran. So I think we were talking before the show. This is going to be one of those dynamics of I wanted to say women veterans, because even my Facebook groups from Texas are Texas women veterans, North Texas women veterans, and I've got all the different regional groups in Texas for that. But I didn't ever refer to the female, female term side of things. But he has been clearly stuck that no, it needs to be female. But I look at some of the other literature, and I still think that most of that trend still ends up being women, not female. I don't know, but your topic, and I'm going to go ahead and pop it up real fast, was you used women veterans. So, what was your discussion with your chair on that?
so this is me being real. 20 years in the Army, I've worked for the state dealing with veterans, and I've worked for the VA. So me using the term female is very natural for me.
Yeah,
And so this day is like, but when it came to academia, they said that I had to use the term women. And so even when it came to something like from the VA, so some of the VA research says female. And we were told that nope, change it to women. And it was, it's different. It's different for somebody like me who's not used to saying women veterans all the time, because there are certain things when you're writing, female sounds better, and maybe it sounds better because that's how I hear it through that lens and
right.
stuff like that. Or when you're saying the VA is like, okay, but
But
yes,
but part of it, I think, was when we were in the military, we were females.
right.
We were not women. We lost that femininity side of it. We were females, and thus we shall ever be. I
Yeah,
don't
but
know.
for the purposes of academia, yes, it had for Walden, and for academia, it was women, and that, if I believe it, when I first started, it wasn't as big of a deal. And then Walden made a change. And so some of the newer dissertations, so prior to mine, they had to go back and change all the females to women.
Oh,
So I
wow.
had to, when I first started, chapter 2, some of that was in there, and I had to go do Control F and find everyone that said female and change it to women. And it's like, not everything, it's like it would come up with errors. Should be female. No, that's be women. So everything is good. I mean, and again, that's part of this process. So not every women veteran or female veteran will always see the same thing through the same lens. And that's
Right,
okay. We're not all the same stuff. And there was a couple of things that came out of the research that was probably a little bit more raising the eyebrows and stuff like that. But it should be in a way, when you start doing a topic, you're not supposed to know the answer, because if you
right,
know the answer, why are you researching it
right.
and stuff? So, and
You
when
want to
I,
go to the results? Can we go to chapter
yeah,
4?
you can get the results.
Let's see. I can get there fast. I'm trying to scroll, folks. Sorry.
No, so I'll do so social identity has nothing.
Oh, you know what? I think it's not going to let
Oh,
me
because
because
it's
it
going to
caps
preview.
off in ProQuest. So I'll stop sharing, folks. I have been sharing on screen, but her dissertation is available on ProQuest. But we can go ahead and go back to what did you learn?
So first, I would say social identity theory. When I was trying to find a theory, was I had to find something that made sense to me. And social identity theory started in the 1970s. So everybody, it is, even though I'm using it for referencing online forums, the
Mhm.
theory was not designed for that. The theory was designed for, if I'm let's make a simple example that everybody knows. If we were to stand in a room full of veterans, okay, so veterans is a category. If I
Right,
quickly go, what branch of service? We divide.
right,
So therefore, there went another category. Then if I say women or men category, wait, who is the National Guard? Who's the reservist? So we all start differentiating into subcategories. Now, who's the one we're going to follow? Maybe all the Army's going to follow all the Army and
right,
stuff. You're going to group. And so it becomes the I think, we think, and you think. So that's, do we all and the people all in the Army think the same way? No. No, but sometimes we don't want to go against those norms. So that's what social identity was, there are different groups. There's the in group and the out group. So is the out group a women veteran? Probably depends on which group you're in, to be fair.
right.
And so, do you see yourselves differently? So I chose to only focus on the social identity theory of how women use it for social support, but specifically for military transition. So I use the 5-year rule because that's what the chapter 2 told me and stuff. Because 5 years out of the military is when you hear the deadly gap. That's when you hear the research says more about the suicide, the homelessness, and everything
Mhm.
else. So that's the 5 years. So why do you have to use that? So again, when you're defending everything, you have to defend why are you choosing certain things.
Right.
So, and my thing is human services. So I'm not talking about it from a psychology perspective and everything else. So the results were great. There's different things that come out. And I started off with a whole lot of stuff in Excel. And my chair, we had to work them down to 5, and it was just like, okay, I went very literal at first.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, I would love for everybody to read it and give me feedback, and or give me perspectives because um one of the things was that women veterans looked at different forms, right? Whether they're gender specific or not, but they didn't always want to share their story
Yeah.
because maybe they felt they would be judged or maybe not. It's just, so that was one of the interesting ones, is that we don't share, but we'll private message you. So one of the things that, for anybody who manages online forums, right? Um, Please be aware that more people may be watching than that is posting.
Oh,
And and we know that and
yeah.
stuff like that. But it's sort of like, just because we know it, can research prove it? And I mean, there are certain things that but like when we talked about the VA or anything that was benefits related, most of the women didn't mind having a regular online forum and stuff because the exchange of information. Now, some of them, when it came to women specific questions, yes, they wanted a gender specific online forum,
Right.
but that's because they felt more comfortable, more safe to be able to share the information. So there's
Well,
a,
that's really why I started the Facebook group North Texas Women Veterans back in 2016, because I knew that if I was struggling, there had to have been other women veterans who were struggling, and we needed to connect with each other. And we've had plenty of people that I'm not a veteran, but I'm supporting blah blah blah. The husband wants to join, or their boyfriend, and like, nope, sorry, this is a female only crowd. And I really, it's been hard to manage that as a female only, not as a matter of disrespect, but to have that safe space for women to be able to ask the questions that they needed to know, to me, to you, to the women in the audience. And it's been encouraging to see over time that they knew where they could go and ask some of
Mhm.
these difficult questions, because they weren't getting the answers. Well, how do I navigate this? Does anybody have a doctor that specializes in this field? And you know what? They're not putting it out there in the public for the public to consume. They have a good private place to be able to put it, but it's also that safe space to do it as well. But then conversely, I knew that, men needed a place as well. And I started in 2018, started North Texas Veterans. So it's way more co-ed. It's not male only because obviously I'm a female, um, but that's where we have some mixed questions and people being able to support on a common ground side of things. But I think in some ways that's also where we get to wear the hats and change. I can ask these things in a safe space that's female only, but these kinds of questions I can answer, ask, and it's going to be like, let's say food,
Mhm.
is going to be applicable for men and women in many cases. Where can they go and get food, or where can they, get some help with, a suicide prevention kind of question. So
and and I think both, and I would say both type of groups or online forums are needed because, and one of the things for areas of future research, I was like, well, maybe they can do the same study, but you do it with just male veterans. Do
yeah,
they do? I mean, sometimes as a woman, but do male veterans feel better talking to male veterans only, whether it's because they don't want to feel judged or whatever. So that was actually an area of future research, and to take it more of a longevity type study, can you do that? Because obviously National Guard and reservists are not included in my study because that's an IRB thing. And then what about spouses? So the same concepts can be changed, different things can be used. So where I started, it can be go a lot of different places.
oh, for sure. I definitely could see that. Since we mentioned, September is Suicide Prevention Month, Suicide Awareness September. I think they
And
did the S's.
we were always trying to prevent suicide. So,
Right, but this is the month where there's extra focus on it. So, what are some of the things that because you are all over, I want to say you're all over the place, but you're not. But um, a lot of what you do in the veteran service organization space, most specifically with VFW, what are some of the things that North Texas is involved in, or that you've been involved in, that, other, not just in North Texas, but how could it be replicated in other areas of the country? What are you guys doing in North
So,
Texas?
I know you mentioned that I'm a member of the Denton VFW 2205. I am the adjutant. Just wanted to clarify that. I said because I don't want Tim Middleton if he
Okay.
sees the. I don't want Tim Middleton to say it's like no. But I think one of the most coolest things about the VFW and why I'm so proud to be part of this VFW is that we have a mental health gaming suite. Now, it started because the Vietnam era veterans recognized it. They're the ones in the membership approved it. So if you're really interested, even you could probably just Google VFW Gaming Suite. So we've able to hold tournaments here, and it's sort of like going in the realm of peer support. If you're
Yeah.
talking to people either online or in that room, how do we help each other? And there's a lot, and again, there's more studies coming from the VA to support this. We've brought VA here. We've had National Guard people here use that room for that. So and people always talk about the younger veterans. It's like Tanker Six and stuff like that. If you see it, that's my almost 80-year-old quartermaster in that room and
Oh,
stuff over
wow.
there. I mean, yeah, because if you go with the pictures, you're going to see him. And so we specifically always say it's not for younger veterans, even though younger veterans may be there, but maybe this is how we get them to feel safe and
Right.
stuff is through. So, we've partnered a lot. The VFW's done a lot with CTG Gaming, and we've done a lot with Regiment. And so it's a new field, but it's not new. So, but it's like, how do we use mental health to, again, whether from a peer support or just for them to know that there's people out there. So there's a lot of suicide trainings in Texas. The Military Veteran Peer Network does that a lot, and they're
Yeah.
free. So
Yeah.
by all means, if you want to know more about those, and they're almost in every county or they are close to a county. So it's just at the end of the day is knowing that there's people out there that care,
Right.
stuff like that. And doing stuff in silence is never the option. And I would always say also just the opposite for the we've always known the ones where it's like, wow, they're so happy, they're so this, and the ones you least suspected. So it's just like always do the battle buddy checks. You know what I mean? It's never hurt somebody to and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" And then maybe you have to be prepared for the answer to be real. But asking people how they're doing is never going to be wrong.
Right.
And actually mean it. You know what I
But
mean?
ask it with sincerity, not
Right.
just, "Hey, how you doing?" It's, "How are you doing?" Really, how are you doing?
And stuff, and to ask everybody, not just the ones that you think might have a problem. You got to ask the leadership. You got to ask
Right.
everybody, stuff, because like like there was times that through this whole PhD process, there was times like I'm tired. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Or like we said, it's like no, I'm not going to that event this time. It's like so while it's not suicide awareness or prevention, it's sort of like remember self-care, like
Yep.
we talked about, is just as equally important. You got to take care of your own self. So sometimes, what is it they say? You can't fill from an empty cup. So
Yeah.
the people that are always helping, sometimes they have to be reminded to step away, go do something. And there were times in this pro process, it was like, that's my manicure and pedicure time. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna sit there and just like I need some woosha. It's like, it's like, but suicide is always gonna be a big thing. Losing one, losing 22, no matter what the reason is, I think nobody wants that to happen. I don't care, veteran service organizations, veterans, whether it's, anything. So we're all here. What can we do? And what can we do? So sometimes, you find different things. Ours happens to be the gaming room and stuff. And you, by all means, you can go Google it. 20, it's
No,
all
I've
over the
been
thing.
watching y'all post, and I'm glad we're having this discussion because military broadcast radio has a gaming channel also.
Well, you can always invite them to come down. They want to do a live from our room and stuff. So
Yeah. I'll talk with Joel and get him to connect with North Texas with you
well,
guys.
and it's really cool because we've got to see the UNT students that are not necessarily veterans. They've came down here. So and just last time we did a tournament, there was two father son and stuff, both veterans, but they got to bring their sons in here and they got to do gaming with them. So
Oh, cool. So some good bonding out of
right.
it as well.
So yeah, I mean I watch them. I'm not a Call of Duty person. I'm that bingo person on my but
I'm not. My boys are. My boys play Call of Duty.
so you could imagine, like, if they brought like if you were back home in North Texas, right? They brought you in the room, they're teaching you how to play. And that opens up a whole different conversation.
Can,
It's
can I
like
can I just play Crash Bandicoot? Seriously.
you might be able to. And but again, what works? You know what I mean? Maybe that's a different conversation. It's like,
Yeah.
so I think when my son first started, there was like a brief conversation. It was like, Mom, you should know how to do this. You started in the military. It's like, not all of us do that kind of stuff. So it's
Yeah.
like that was many years ago, but it was just funny. It's like, well, don't stand out in the open. That doesn't make sense. Um, but we can laugh and everything else. So a lot of times, one of the things that we try to do is also be out in the community. Like I was literally at an event. Well, when I finish this, I'll go back out there. So it's trying to reach the community to let them know that we're here, first of all. And let me just say this, I'm a VFW member. I am an American Legion. I am DAV, and I think I'm still an IVA member. So it's not all VFW, just happens to be my primary. So
Right.
like when you were reading my things, there's a high school and a middle school scholarship. Don't have to have a veteran in your family at all. And by the way, that's a nationwide program. So you can look it up and find it. So if your children are looking for money to go to school, I had one of those. So he chose to go to Baylor, but that's out there. We get to honor teachers also. So I get to lead that for the Department of Texas. So that is really cool for me.
Or do you have a link we can share for the teachers?
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Or if you go onto vfw.org and Teacher of the Year, that's how so they'll just turn it into their local posts, but the forms for Teacher of the Year are on there.
Because I think that, that's where we need to be able to share that kind of information.
Well, and that's like, when we're talking about like the VFW has the Sports Clip Scholarship for if you're an E5 and below, the Sports Clip Scholarship is open. And we were fortunate enough to didn't have somebody get that. He got to finish his pilot license doing his hours using that money. So, and here's the, yeah, the national, yep, it'll go there.
Yep.
So, yeah, it'll find the forms that are there. So, and the forms, to be fair, for Voice of Democracy and Patriots Pen are there. If you're in Texas, we may have Scholars app, but you can always do the manual forms. So, and again, that is a nationwide. All Teacher of the Year, Voice of Democracy, and Patriots Pen are nationwide, and at least the Voice of Democracy and Patriots Pen is probably overseas in those posts also. So, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's not just for the senior. So
Oh,
it's
that's
a lot.
good.
Yeah, right. And again, so what people think we do and what we do is two different things most of the time, or hopefully, But yeah, I mean, like the Sports Clip Scholarship is phenomenal, and it's not a one and done. So if you try for this fall for the spring and you get it, you get to try again, to apply again and try it. So it's not just one time you only get it.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
And
Let's see. What else were we had so many topics we thought about discussing.
I mean, I think when I would say when you and I first met, it on social media, maybe I'll say it that way.
Okay.
It wasn't as many women veterans in North
Yep.
Texas that was visible. And I want to make sure that there was a lot of Texas has the most women veterans.
Yep.
But you did not see as many being visible. And to be fair, when I first started the VFW and went to the conventions, they were there. The women veterans were there, and some of them are my mentors and friends to this day. Now you see them. Now you see us everywhere. We're all on social media, so that's why I always say social media is good, bad, or ugly, just depending on how you're using it.
Right.
But now we're able to bring awareness, and now we're able to do that. Now, when you go into at least the VFW conventions, there's a lot more women veterans. There's been a lot more women veterans that have been district commanders. I mean, I was the only women veteran. Besides being for District 1, I was the only one on the Council of Administration. And if you know my personality, that didn't defeat me. So I was like, and I had to do it during COVID. So it was just like, okay.
Yeah.
And yes, I was
been
going to
tough.
school at the same time. So it was fun. It was a lot of hours and balancing.
Right.
But I think in the women veteran space, there's more of us now that are visible. And so that's a really good thing because representation matters, to
Yep.
be fair. Sometimes whether I'm at a recruiting event or not, they make fun of me because the little army men, they're not men, they're my little army women that
Oh yeah. I have
that they
one at my desk at work.
So usually every single time I go to an event, whether it's with what I'm doing for the day, my day job or VFW, I put them out because people, oh, it's an army man. No, it's an army woman. So that is actually immediately a game. It's a way to open a simple conversation. So every
Right.
single time I meet an army woman or a women veteran, I give them one. I said, take one of them and stuff like that. And
Own it. Yeah, we have to own that.
right. And to watch that smile, and sometimes it's okay, but to be fair, even doing the research, I'm going to be the first one to say it is not easy to see us. And I make sure
Yeah.
I say that also because if I'm at work and I'm wearing business professional, I don't have veteran on, I don't have all this stuff on.
Right.
Doesn't mean I'm not a veteran. It just means that sometimes, even as women veterans, we can't see our own selves and
Right.
stuff like that. And one of the funniest thing or most ironic thing was one time I went to wasn't a VA. It was with the local hospital. Whatever it was, I was getting a test done. She was like, Japanese encephalitis. Why did you have that? And I was like, because they made us do it when we went to Okinawa. She goes, really? I was in the Air Force and we didn't have to do it. So neither one of us knew we were veterans until that same simple comment came out, and then all of a
Right.
sudden we had to share a thing. So it's okay to say that we can't see ourselves and let alone everybody else see us. So I always say
Right.
that's important. Not that in just a little bit, I'm not going to have a VFW shirt on, but I've had VFW shirts on. I've had veteran shirts on, and people still see the men in the baseball caps.
Right.
I don't really wear a baseball cap. That's just a personal preference. But it's okay. But representation matters and stuff. I've met many of phenomenal women, and phenomenal veterans that happen to be women, and so it's okay. It's okay not to be seen sometimes, and just acknowledge that sometimes it's okay, and sometimes take up space. Tell them that, no, I did 20 years in the Army. No, I did this. And whether you deployed or not deployed doesn't mean you're not a veteran. And so I've had that conversation with some, like they've come to my desk at work and they see my combat patch and everything. And it's like, and I had one that was like, I'm not like you. What do you mean you're not like me? I didn't deploy. I was like, did you raise your hand and say I will? Yes. Well, okay, then we're not really that much different. I just got
Right.
called up. So
Right.
sometimes it's just a remembering.
You're not less than
Right.
that.
And one of the times that I'm going to say it brought me almost to tears a little bit, and it was a good way, is that I met a woman at a job fair. She was actually HR. So I met her as an HR and found out she was a veteran. Later on, her life changed and she came to me, right? And she did not know she was eligible to see me. I was like, wow, you're a veteran. I said, no, I'm not. And I'm like, why are you not a veteran? And stuff, because her dad and them had served in Vietnam. She had served in the 1980s and they told her she wasn't a veteran. So
Yeah.
all these years, she didn't think of that title. And
Right.
so it was around Veterans Day. So when I'm walking her out, and I told everybody to tell her Happy Veterans Day. And so she's almost in tears because it was one of those really good, nice, emotional moments. It's like, no, you're a veteran.
Yeah.
So I get to change people's perception a lot when I get to do that.
Right.
And so,
Wear
and
the hat. I mean, it's a figurative hat. It doesn't have to be a physical hat you're really putting on, but mentally, and I use that reference quite a bit, that, when we got out of the military, we took off the camo hat, whatever shade it was, right? We took off that military hat, and there was a delay for us to put on our veteran hat. It's kind of automatic, I think, for most guys because it's really something that they have been ingrained in. I know when I got out of the Army, my family, my immediate family, and my in-laws were like wanted that part of my life to disappear. So, and I get it in some ways, so I could find my feminine side that I'm still working on. But I and I clung to that military side because that had become part of me for so long. And to just say that that was not part of my life anymore. And I immediately went to the VA and registered, but then that was a whole process that I really got kind of left behind, and it took a while to figure out how to navigate my way through the VA side to get the help I needed because I knew that I wasn't getting the help in the civilian, health sector side of things. But it took a while for me to be able to navigate all of those obstacles and learn how to own that it's okay to wear my veteran hat and be a woman at the same time.
mhm. Well, yeah, I've been at events and we've gone to eat afterwards, right? And I'm standing next to the VFW people I was just at. I have a VFW shirt on. A child will come up to the males that have that cap on. It's just
Yeah.
like, I mean, most of the time they'll turn around and is like, no, she served too. And, then I'm sometimes sarcastic, like, dude, I got more time in the military than you do. And, that's out of love. But I'm glad you actually sort of mentioned that topic of research. I know you and I both talked about that the research is now coming out in
Yeah,
like the last 5 years. And I think it's just as important. And many of the veteran service organizations are keeping women veterans health in research and stuff prominent,
yep,
because we know how long it took for Agent Orange to become what it is now, and they're still there. We know how did the Marines, how did the water impact the women there, let alone the veterans and
right.
stuff. I think we're finding out now how about the burn pits. And so my thing is always male or female, women or men, please register on the burn pits, because we don't we know, I mean, the research is out there, but I think there's still more research to do about the impact does it have on women. Because like I told you, when I went in to do my burn pit thing a while back, and this is many years ago, to be fair,
Yeah.
I would not have asked a certain questions if she hadn't brought it up. So I'm ever grateful that she asked those questions, because I was like, wait, I didn't wouldn't have thought about that. And does the burn pit, in fact, women that are still childbearing ages? I'm not thankful, but you know what I mean. Just I mean, did that
But
have
but
any
it but
impact?
it would have, if when our exposures were when we
Right.
were childbearing and being able to have children, not have any birth defects and stuff. So some of the research I saw last week that I was reading about was they have recently updated a lot of the female forms to include questions specifically that address, some of our anatomical changes and childbearing and all those things. I just had, so I'm part of the in-depth study also. I've been part of the not American University's diet study, but I'm also in the in-depth study that the VA is doing. And so I spoke with a doctor yesterday. So we got to see if I can ride a bicycle. That's part of the testing. But because of the fractures that I had from my car wreck, we've got to figure out if I can do it long enough to do the test and just get through it, or do they have a recumbent bicycle that I can ride? That's why I don't ride a bicycle. It's just uncomfortable. But they need more women participating in a lot of these studies because our population is growing. Our
Hmm.
population is growing as female veterans, while the overall population of veterans is declining. And we've got to be a part of that conversation, because we're not going to get the help we need if we don't represent ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that's what we both of us sort of talked about and agree upon, that you have to advocate for yourself.
Yep.
Um, Sometimes you may not know what's going on with you, and is A B equals C? Sometimes the answer is no, and sometimes the answer is yes, and we need you to see what C looks like.
Yep.
um so the research is coming. I mean, again, my research was from a human service perspective, but there's so much more research out there now, and it's been done in the last 6 years, 7 years. We're seeing it get published. So even though, like, I wrote my chapter 2, before I had it on and then I just this literally right before I defended, it was just like, oh, here's another great article. I wish I would have had that one. And
Yeah.
so in the field of academia, it's a great time as a woman veteran to me, because it's starting to be there. And now, by it starting to be there, we're starting to see what are the gaps, what
Yep.
do the gaps fill, and what needs to be filled. So, and again, anything that benefits women veterans benefits veterans. So, like, my study was all about women veterans and their online forums. The same thing can be still done with men, and to see, do you get the same results and
Right.
stuff, or do you build upon something? So it's a great time. I mean, and like I told you when you were talking about your chapter 2, I said, girl, I said, I know. I was like, I tell you, chapter 2 is like,
There's that new Wounded Warrior report that was just published that I've got to add in now too. And I'm like, all right, where's the crossovers? I'm looking. they got some sources I can reference to. Okay,
I mean,
so
and
there's
you
lots
find
I can glean from it, but I'm like, I was having a oh crap moment. Did they just do what I'm trying to study? And I think there's the crossover there because mine's in public administration. And it kind of gets towards the barrier question that they're asking because I'm taking the, yep, there's been the research on homelessness
mhm.
and medical and mental. Well, what's the rest of the story from the public administration standpoint? And when federal dollars are more meaningful now than ever because we're having to fight for what do we have money to spend on, then we have to ask better questions to make sure that we're getting the help we need. And so I'm using stakeholder theory as mine, as my the basis of my foundation to be able to get our input because since females were authorized to serve in combat roles since 2013, nobody's asked us the question, are you getting all the resources you need, to transition? I'm sure we could even ask the question from the active duty side of things. Are you getting the things that you need serving on active duty is going to be just as critical, but nobody's ever asked us.
Well, I, from an academic perspective, and I would tell you that doing IRB, which is the review board, you're not touching active duty. So maybe that's why, or you have to go through so many more
Oh yeah,
permissions. So when some of that questions, you have to know that part. Why are they not studying? Okay, and stuff. But it doesn't mean what would you, so you take that same concept and it's like, what would you have liked to have been done and stuff. So like where mine is social identity theory, it's like, okay, you take it this way, you take it that. And for I think it's gonna be interesting for your stakeholders. It might pull in the wounded warrior stuff, but it's gonna build on or look at the gap is they did it from a women's veterans perspective and not from a public policy or or
right.
stakeholder. So you can take the same information.
They did it
Uh,
from a nonprofit side, and I'm taking it from the actual female veteran side.
So, like, I'll give you like a simple example is that when my friend Reese, she did it on natural disasters, right? And it was like, what's the outcome and stuff. So everybody's like PTS, right? So they were like, well, that's all of that has been done. And so when we had a chair, not our chair, when we had to get residency, somebody was like, well, why don't you do post traumatic growth? And so it's like flip the script. And
Right.
so that's how when you're doing your research questions, you're like, wow, that just changed the whole dynamic. And so that's what
Yeah.
she did, post traumatic growth of a
Right.
hurricane. So I think and what you start and what you probably know that is I don't think anybody who starts the PhD process, the research topic, you know what I mean, doesn't end the same way.
Right.
So it evolves. So that's
Right.
always a good thing.
Well, I'm going to have to shift this a little bit because we only have 2 minutes left and I've got 30 seconds to cover this before the closing outro. You are welcome to come back anytime. You know that. Whether you want to take a little hand at some co-hosting, whatever, feel free to let me know. Our good friend, one of your besties in the world, Dr. You say doctor? Yeah.
Mhm.
Daryl Hartley is going to be joining us next Saturday. He called me up this morning, bright and early, and said, yeah, I'm going to take that October 4th spot. So he'll be there. I'll be remote in West Virginia, 11th through the 12th. And racing, Brian Sims will be joining us October 18th. Bryce Hanson, October 25th. Ricky Ritchie, November 2nd. And I have a remote recorded event that I'll do for November 8th. I think I got the date right. And I just booked Doug Peterson. I bet you know Doug Peterson because his new book just came out and he confirmed with me a while ago for the 22nd. So I almost have November all booked up and it's going to be an amazing time. So looking forward to that. And seeing Daryl next week, we're going to cover the DSTM on moral injury. So that will be pretty exciting. But that's all we've got for today, folks. Thank you, Katie. Feel free to hang on, and we'll, have a little post adios. And until next time, everybody have a great Pain to Purpose day. You got this, and we're all in it together. So be blessed.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.